What's going on, everybody? Thanks for joining us and hanging out with us on this special Sunday afternoon. This is a special edition of the Going Broadway Podcast. Alex and Cole with you as always, and we will have someone joining us shortly. But for now, Cole, what's happening?
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the greatest wrestling podcast ever. Thank you so much for joining us during this pre-show of Glory Pro Wrestling. And yes, we do have a special guest that will be with us in roughly about 5 to 10 minutes. But until then, we want to say welcome to everybody that's here, and let us know that you're in the chat. And if you do have any questions for Colt, who will be our special guest, Colt Cabana, you can throw that down in the chat right now, and we will try to get to all of those as quickly as we can with the short amount of time that we have with them.
Drop them in the chat. So I'm kind of adjusting our mic levels and such on the fly, so it's not picking up too much in the way of external noise, but it's going to happen. There's a lot going on right now. So who do we got in the chat? Let's see. We have the sports entertainer in the chat. I know exactly who that is. We got Thomas Russell. We have Muhammad. Thanks for joining us. Wow, the volume level just dropped drastically.
Yes.
Or is it just me? I mean, it was like chaos in here, and then it just like. So
shouldn't it be the greatest sports entertainment
podcast? It is not.
Podcast?
Shut your mouth.
No, we do wrestling here.
So without any further ado, looks like we have our guest joining us shortly.
All right.
Sitting down with us right now is the one and only Colt Cabana, everybody.
Can you get me? Am I on the stream here?
You're on.
Oh, we're on delayed on
I'm
YouTube.
Delayed. I don't get to see the privy stuff.
All right.
the privy stuff.
Oh,
hey, here,
listen,
privy. You're privied.
As someone who is podcasting myself, I appreciate the setup. I'm looking at all the tech. This is wonderful. You're doing it right. And if anything, I can appreciate that. So hello.
So let's talk about that real quick. So Art of Wrestling, you started doing wrestling podcasting before it became a thing, before it became trendy.
Well, it was a thing for a long time. People have been throwing that onto the internet since, I don't even know, 2006, whatever it was. But and people were podcasting when I started podcasting. But nobody in the actual industry who was consistently in the industry was a consistent podcaster.
Exactly.
And so I was kind of the first one to do that. And then, yes, the world took off.
the forerunner. So, seriously, I don't feel like there would be a Going Broadway podcast. There wouldn't be a lot of wrestling podcasts out there without podcasts like yours. So, from a personal standpoint, wanted to tell you thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So with the podcast, what do you do now to kind of stay different and new and relevant and with all the people that are out there now doing it?
Yeah. I mean, obviously the Art of Wrestling has been, as me talking to somebody within the industry, a real conversation for, an hour or whatever it is. And, after maybe 8 years, 9 years, and a lot of people starting to do kind of the same thing, the Art of Wrestling, I mean, it wasn't as... and how could I be? I had my place in the market. I was one of the originators, but it's hard to battle with the Jerichos and the Austins and the Jim Rosses of the world. I mean, luckily, I still, was such a big and am such a big part of the industry. But these guys, obviously, their resume speaks for itself,
right?
And that idea just kind of like got over marketed, if you will. So I mean, I still put those out kind of for fun, for my own happiness, and for the people who have followed me for so many years and love my style of doing that.
Right.
But I've transitioned to a show called Wrestling Anonymous, which again is something that I feel nobody is doing in the wrestling world, and that's the kind of the weekly podcast, or the current podcast that I'm doing now, where I'm taking in anonymous phone calls or anonymous voice messages from people with wrestling stories. And again, it's just, I think, I'm looking at the podcast. I'm like, what do I like as a podcaster? What kind of podcast do I like to listen to? And then I'm also like, what isn't being done for the wrestling fan? And it's kind of maybe a bigger person in the wrestling community sharing people who don't have a chance to let their stories be heard. And I can do that because I have a nice people know who I am.
Right.
right.
People know you.
Yes. In this community of professional wrestling, in the real world, nobody knows anybody.
Right.
You know, but luckily, my tenure in pro wrestling, almost 24 years now or whatever it might be, I'm in the wrestling community and people are aware of that.
Right.
For sure. So something else we'll touch on in terms of, I guess, the wrestling side of business, for lack of a better way of putting it. Pro Wrestling Tees, I genuinely believe, now, you may humbly disagree, we may have people that are watching that disagree, but I don't feel like there would be a Pro Wrestling Tees without Colt Cabana. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, I mean, that's just a fact. Like, so,
Right.
I don't want to get into the business aspect of it, but that's literally a fact.
Right.
So myself and Ryan Barkin, who owns 1 Hour Tees, we kind of came together and a business plan got put together to make Pro Wrestling Tees. And, just based off of me going to Ryan, him not knowing wrestling, but not knowing the ins and outs the way I did and do, and saw that what I was doing and saw on a smaller independent level, it was capable of making shirts and making products. And I was just doing it for myself. And it was the idea of like, well, let's do it for other people so they can make money also. And also, the t-shirt company can make money, but based off of like, let's make these wrestlers money. They don't have WWE contracts. We're all hustling.
Right.
Here's some ways to make more money. And, I always use Kevin Steen as an example of just, he was able to quit his job doing overnights because Pro Wrestling Tees money was coming in, and that was kind of the reality of like, we're doing a good thing.
Yeah, 100%.
So obviously you said you've been doing this for a long time. When did it kind of click for you that you could kind of be the start of, one, creating a wrestling experience for fans, something beyond just the ring, especially in the indie scene and a lot of those things, but also creating something for other wrestlers? When did that vision kind of start? How did you kind of go down that road of, I can actually be the start of something?
Well, when MySpace was happening, you were able to put your PayPal link button on MySpace and sell merchandise to people who weren't at shows. And that was a big eye-opener to me, is somebody in Wichita, Kansas, somebody in Wyoming who reads about the independent scene and loves it, and reads about the Sheets and or Meltzer or whatever, and just like. And those experiences, like here in St. Louis, there have been so many great experiences I've had of just like, even in my movies, the Wrestling Road documentaries, a lot of it happens in St. Louis.
Right.
It's like, those are the great experiences, and people far away aren't able to get into that. So I love that I was able to ship and give them the same, they were able to buy the same merchandise at these small shows just over the internet through MySpace. And I remember like trying to get with Hero and Delirious and Seidel and Claudio, who's Cesaro at the time, and being like, I want to open up a website that's called like wrestlingmerch.com. This was maybe like 2006 maybe.
Okay.
And it was just like, but it independently owns, like I wouldn't have to ship out your shit. It would be like somehow, like I had the visions of this very early. I just didn't have the knowledge to do it.
Yeah.
And so I kind of put it on the back burner. It just never happened. And then crazily enough, Ryan from 1 Hour Tees understood the infrastructure, had the business, and it was able to come through. So even in 2006, like, because I got signed to WWE in 2007, so like that was probably like my hardest hustle at the time,
Right.
Of making a living, but not making a lot of money, but making a living.
Right.
And it was just like, I want to sustain this lifestyle forever. How do I do it? And that's where my brain starts chugging like that, of like, it can't just be the $50 from the matches. It has to be $50 here, $50 here, $50 there, $50 there, and then that becomes $800 a week, and now you're making a living.
Right, 100%. So real quick, I know we have a limited amount of time with you. I want to give you the chance to, while we're kind of on the topic, your Pro Wrestling Tees store. I know you have a Twitch channel. If you would take a minute or two to plug those things, as well as tell people where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, at Colt Cabana is for everything, and I am on Twitch. I really enjoy it. It's I don't know. It's something I started doing during the pandemic.
Yeah,
right, Cole.
I was gonna say it's a different beast than everything else.
It really is, and I think that's why I like it. Like, I know there's an opportunity. Yeah, there's a monetarily opportunity, but there's been an opportunity to connect with wrestling fans, and that's what I've always been about. Like, yeah, I'm trying to make money. Like, this is a job, it's a business, but it's the best, like do what you love and the
Right.
money will come, blah, blah, blah. We've heard that a lot. So
Sure.
I love that I was able to get into this because of the pandemic. It's like, look what this brought for me, and it's something that brings me a lot of joy. We're doing live shows in Chicago, doing a live podcast at the Lincoln Lodge. It's me and Talking Shop Boys, a doubleheader, April 17th after the New Japan show, April 16th, which is in Chicago. Myself and Sarah Shockey are going to start a live comedy show monthly at the very famous Annoyance Theater in Chicago, Illinois. The show's called Sarah Teaches Colt How to Do Improv. And of course, my Twitch and ColtMerch.com. And I'm selling, I have these Upper Deck cards now I'm very happy about. I'm selling. I've never had any of those before. So, and I'm in with AEW and those ventures. So, life is really good, and it's no complaints by me.
So you mentioned joining AEW. I was actually at the Revolution show where you debuted, and just the reaction was insane. So how were you brought in? Who were your conversations with?
There was I did a video, but when this all started, besides the EVPs, I was the next one to know. I have a very close relationship with the Young Bucks.
Sure.
If you read their book, you will see how they were, inspired by a lot of the moves that I made. And I would say, luckily enough, I wasn't a meanie to them. I was going to swear.
No, you're good.
Right. I wasn't mean to them, but of course that's not in my nature. So, they became what they became, and we've always had a very tight relationship. So the Young Bucks for sure is just kind of how everything worked, and we were waiting for the right time. I was with Ring of Honor. I was about to start with New Japan and tagging full time with Toru Yano, and just this opportunity kind of all hit at the same time, and I made that decision. And luckily for me, the pandemic happened. I signed in February of 2020.
Yeah.
So
literally right before everything shut down.
I had a ticket to New Japan, and I was going to start after that New Japan tour.
Wow.
And, luckily, I wasn't supposed to start at Revolution. I was supposed to start in April of 2020.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So, but, it's just Tony was just let's start you now, which is the coolest. And so, so that decision is luckily, I was able to work full time while the pandemic happened. And had I made the decision to stay with New Japan, we would have been sat at home essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you signed with AEW. I know a lot of our viewers and a lot of people are going to be curious. What was it like, and what is it still like, working with Brody Lee and the Dark Order, and what's it like now? How have things changed, and, what's the dynamic kind of like now?
Yeah, I say the thing I'm the most grateful for AEW is that I was able to spend that time with Brody. If I did not sign with AEW, I would not have spent any time with Brody.
Right.
And, luckily I was able to be there with him and then involved in an angle. And then, his passing literally made me stay with a group that have now become, my best friends in the industry and people that I love, because, the angle was supposed to, obviously me and Brody were going to wrestle, and then I was going to go my other ways, and he would lead the Dark Order. But circumstances has it, I'm stuck in the vortex of the Dark Order.
Right.
And of course, we've all bond, we bond so much over that. We still talk about Brody. We always joke about Brody. His child is there for us to, that's the best, to just, remind us of him, to bring out the memories, to talk about him. And their presence backstage is so needed. The two kids and Amanda. And I love the idea of AEW for that they're so welcomed, and that, his legacy will live forever. I mean, I've talked about that with some people in the locker room, is just that, in wrestling is so, nowadays it's just on to the next thing. We're all if we pass, fine, but a week later, 2 weeks later, it's just let's move on.
Yeah.
And that does happen in wrestling. It's just the reality of it. Right. So luckily we have these reminders of Brody around to always keep him in mind and always keep him around.
And just from my standpoint, I mean, not a great situation, obviously, with Brody passing, but because of that, you stayed with the Dark Order, and these BTE skits are just tremendous. They're hilarious, and it's something that's not even. I'm trying to phrase this in such a way that you don't have to be, I guess, a genius to plan something, or I don't want to say book something, but these skits that you put together, it's so simple, but it's hilarious. I mean, and granted, it's, very adult theme or very adult oriented. However, it's funny nonetheless. So, I'm glad you're still with the Dark Order. I think it's the perfect fit. So that being said, real quick, besides yourself, obviously, who's the funniest person in the Dark Order?
Well, Silver always makes a joke and then he goes, "I'm the funny guy." He always tells me, he reminds me, he lets me know that he's the funny guy. And then I obviously try to one-up him and remind him that I'm a funny guy. So we have funny guy offs, which I think makes us both the least funny people. Because if you're not funny, you're not bragging about how funny you are. Right. So I'll give it to Stu and how weird he is with his French-Canadian accent.
That's awesome.
I would not have guessed you would have said Stu.
Well, not intentionally.
Right.
Unintentionally to me, and the way he speaks and the way he translates in his head English to French, French back to English.
Okay.
Makes me laugh all the time.
Okay. So in emailing back and forth with you, I did give you a heads up on this. We might bore some of the viewers right now, but as a fellow Chicago Cubs fan, I'm sure I'm going to get heat if anybody in the building heard that just now. I got to get your thoughts on the free agent activity and the acquisitions.
Yeah.
I mean,
we might cut this short because I'm a very casual sports fan. I love 80s and 90s sports.
Okay.
Once I got into wrestling, I just stopped paying attention to sports. I was on the road so much. I couldn't watch SportsCenter anymore. The phones weren't as intrusive as they are now, so I wasn't able to keep up really. And so I have Cubs in my heart, but I don't know what's happening.
I got you. No,
Chris Bryant is on the Padres or something now, or something.
Well, see, he went to the Rockies, I think.
That's what it was, right? I mean, I'm a little bit aware, but listen, I'm just so grateful that we actually won one in our lifetime. I don't expect it to happen until in my lifetime. We got one, and that's all that I'm proud about, and that my mom was able to see it happen too.
Yeah,
and so that's kind of where I lay.
100%. Did you have anything else? I want to get to some questions once you're wrapped.
Let's get a few more people to put some questions in here, and we'll give him a couple of those. We have about 10 minutes of his time left. So obviously, Glory Pro today. We have an awesome card in front of us, and I wanted to just get your thoughts on what is a day in the life of Colt Cabana on these indie shows, preparing. We're looking at some of the chaos of planning a match, and all these different things. So can you kind of walk us through a day in the life?
I mean, you got it. It's usually hectic because before you guys were like, "Here's the set time," and I was like, "I don't know what time I can do."
Yeah.
I know I'm getting to the show. I want to talk with my partners. I want to make sure my merch is out. I want to know where I'm at on the card. I want to know what the promoter has. I want to make sure I have time to talk to everybody. I want to watch all the matches, so I want to kind of quickly have a match put together so I can watch the other matches and help teach some of the youth maybe, or put in my 2 cents. And so it's very hectic, but it's a lifestyle that I've lived for so long that it's just so normal to me. To anybody else, it would just be wild, but to me, it's what I've accustomed to really enjoy, and I love doing it.
So, as far as local, obviously we're in St. Louis, but I want to ask about Chicago indie talent. Who are some up-and-comers in the Chicago area that, not sure?
Well, listen, I mean, I'm with AEW every single week.
Sure.
In 2020, it all shut down for me, so I'm not on these shows like I used to be.
Okay.
And so, I try to watch some Fight TV stuff sometimes. I try to watch a little bit of GCW here and there and Wrestle Pro, but the easy answer is some of the guys like Dan the Dad and Warhorse and the guys that are making it up through Chicago and Effie, obviously. But those are the easy answers that everyone's going to say. So,
right.
And there are talent down, in the area in the Midwest that are dying to break through, and I wish I knew them all, but I know they're there. I know the scene's hungry because I was the scene, and I know what it was like.
100%. So that's a great transition to a question that comes from Thomas Russell. So this is independent scene related to wrestling. He says, "How was it going up against Too Tough Tony for the JCW Championship?"
Yeah, I've wrestled Too Tough Tony for years now, like starting in 1999 almost, I think, with IWA Mid-South. And it's just like we all just hang around forever. And I'm sure some of the young guys are like, get the F out of the scene, make some room for us. Probably the same thing I was saying when I was young. But JCW is so fun. now they're doing shows at Violent J's house, I think. They just did a show from, I think, the Crowbar, I think was the bar in Detroit. They have a Twitch channel now, and they're doing stuff every night. They used to have a Patreon, and I think it was a smart model to move it over to Twitch. So doing those JCW shows are great. I can't, I'll be at the Gathering of the Juggalos if everything happens. I've been doing it, so many years in a row, and I'm looking forward to being a part of some of their Twitch stuff too.
Very cool. Let's see. I want to get some questions that were submitted ahead of time. If I can talk without stuttering, my goodness. Okay, so this question comes from Chris Poshek. He asks, what was it like being in the ring with David Arquette?
It's funny because Eric Cannon's here at the show today, who ran that promotion. I watched David's movie as a part of like an art festival. I was the host during the pandemic in Chicago. And afterwards, he just apologized that I wasn't part of the movie. There was a picture of me at the very end of just like, thanks, Colt. It was me, and him and Bryce Remsburg from that First Avenue show. And I was like, oh, it's more than okay. But I was like, why wouldn't you want that match, at least a clip of it in the movie? It was like, First Avenue is so great. It's 1,000 people packed into the greatest. They're rowdy. It just makes wrestling look cool.
Yeah.
And I guess looking back on it, it's like, I don't know why they wouldn't have put that in there. But being in the match with him, I become good friends with David Arquette. I think he's a wonderful-hearted person, which I'm sure, just like wrestling, Hollywood is probably the same. You don't hear that a lot. There's a lot of probably scumbags out there. Yeah. And he has a great heart. He's a great person. And I couldn't be happier to call him a friend, and it all stems from that match.
And I hate the bad rap that he gets because whenever he had his WCW thing in 99, 2000, he's being paid to be – he's being told what to do. It's not like he has a say in it. He's doing what he's told. He's being – like WCW says, here's a check. We're doing what we want, and you listen to us. It's not like he had a say so in it.
See, that's what everyone thinks, but now you're bringing it up, and now he's going to be like, oh, no, do they think that, Let it die, Alex.
Sorry. Let's see. What do we got? We have a question from the Sports Entertainer on YouTube, also known as David. He asks, at the indie shows, how often do younger wrestlers ask you for your opinions on their matches?
Yeah, it's give and take, and I think the reality is that a lot, I'm hoping that a lot do, but are kind of scared. And, the invitation is always there. You have to say, like, even if they reject it, go ask these people. But I don't hold a grudge because I was there once. I know how intimidating it is. I don't think I'm intimidating, but I can understand a younger wrestler seeing my resume and seeing me being intimidated by it. So many do. I enjoy giving the tips that I can. The best tips are going to come when I wrestle you, the hands-on experience. So that's the best. And so, it's kind of like if a promoter wants me, a younger wrestler to learn, you put me in the ring with them, and I can sit down and have an hour conversation with you afterwards. But that's kind of the answer. It's like 50-50, but I know a lot do, but I know they're intimidated, and I understand that intimidation.
Gotcha.
We got time probably for one more question. We want to be respectful of your time, and I also know the doors are about to open here. So do we have one more that's been sent in ahead of time?
We probably do. Let me.
I just want to double check.
Switch back over here
before I go ahead.
Actually, why don't you just go ahead?
So as we close, with your time, obviously, thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your time here today. Is there, you've been doing this a long time. Is there anybody that you haven't had a chance to be in the ring with, or you'd like to get back in the ring with before? Whatever else keeps coming, any matches that you would like to have?
Well, I mean, I used to say Kenny Omega before he became, I'm the number one fan of DDT wrestling a 9-year-old girl, wrestling a blow-up doll Kenny Omega. I think that creative aspect of Kenny is great. I don't want to have the Okada match with Kenny Omega. I wouldn't have the Okada match with, I think a lot of wrestlers want that with Kenny.
Right.
I want the girl match.
Yes.
And that would be something that I would want. And then on the flip side, I know this isn't the question, but like a goal that I've made for myself is I want to wrestle in the Tokyo Dome, and I was very close to that. I believe, Yano and I were becoming a unit, and I assume that's what it probably would have or could have led to. And I made a decision to stay in America, and obviously we just went over the whole pandemic, which was a great decision for me. But I think before it all kind of wraps up, or my potential wraps up, or my body wraps up, I would love to tag with Yano in the Tokyo Dome. That's kind of one of my really last goals.
Awesome. Well, very cool. Thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate it. We know you got some stuff to prep for. You got a match. You have a 6-man tag match here. So, again, we want to be respectful of your time. And any final thoughts from you, sir?
I mean, at Colt Cabana, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, it's all over there. Check out my podcasts. And, I'm always announcing and promoting something, I guess. So that's where you can find it. And I appreciate your time. And welcome to the podcast world, right, guys?
Awesome.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
I appreciate you guys have been really great supporting me, too, and I really appreciate that, too.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
Awesome. We'd love to get you on at some point for a long-winded interview of your career.
This was pretty long-winded, I don't know.
So thanks so much,
thanks,
man.
Gents.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it, Colt. All right. Bye.
Colt Cabana, everybody. Insert applause soundbite here. No, very cool. I mean, that was the first time we have interviewed a live, in-person guest. We didn't even bring that up. Everyone else has been via video. So, very cool. So, it's 2 o'clock. Do you have the card pulled up? We can run through it real quick.
I can pull it up real quick.
Once again, guys, thanks for joining us. We just had Colt Cabana on. We wanted to be respectful of his time, but he did give us a good 25, 30 minutes, which we sincerely appreciate. And we hope to get him back on, like Cole said, for maybe a Zoom at some point, because we didn't even touch on much of his wrestling career in itself. So it was very cool. We're very appreciative of him taking some time with us. So we're going to stay on for about another 25-ish minutes. You can probably hear some background noise. We got a few guys in the ring prepping for their matches, and it's gonna be a fun card. So I know you got it pulled up.
Yeah, we got one of our big matches tonight. I believe we're sponsoring this one.
The 6-man tag,
yeah.
Indeed we are.
So we're sponsoring this one. The 6-man tag with Colt Cabana is going to be Colt Cabana, Warhorse, and Dan the Dad versus Danny Vega, who we saw last time, and it was very impressive.
Davey,
sorry, what did I say?
Danny.
Wow. Davey Vega, Matt Fitchett, and Eric Cannon, which actually was just mentioned earlier as well. So that's one of the matches. We also have Allie Catch versus Laney Luck.
And those were two from the
nice to meet you, Cole.
The triple threat match that those two had with Kylie Ray at the last show.
Yes. And then we have Cody Lane versus Effie. And I'm trying to scroll through all of these here. We have Max the Impaler versus Tootie Lynn. We have Davey Richards versus Myron Reed.
That's going to be a banger of a match.
I'm excited for this one as well. This one's Jake something.
By the way, just real quick, we are also sponsoring Davey Richards' match with Myron Reed.
We have Jake something versus Ethan Price. And last time Jake was here, it was an awesome match as well.
He'll be. I won't spoil too much, but I know he'll also be on the show at the pageant next month.
Yes.
But I'm not privy to say exactly who he's wrestling, but it's going to be an amazing match. It's
going to be really good. We have Technical Difficulties versus the Hustle and Muscle, and that will have, I'm going to butcher the name, Rahit. I always mess his name up.
I don't know. Close enough.
Impact guy.
Well, yeah, former X Division champion in Impact.
And then we have a 4-way with ATM, Camaro Jackson, Jossie, and Paco. And I think that's everybody. So,
and real quick, too, no, Kylie is not here. I know she is competing in Chicago on a couple of indie shows this weekend.
And tonight is the Crockett Cup, and she is actually in that 3-way women's title match tonight.
Night 2 of the Crockett Cup, I should say. They had night 1 last night. Bryman's question is, Jake going back to Impact? I highly doubt it.
Who's that?
So Brian on Twitch, he asked if Jake was going back to Impact, and I said I sincerely doubt it.
I think there are other things on the horizon for him.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not a disrespect to Impact, because lately they've had they've had an overall good wrestling product lately, but I think it's at a point where Jake something is becoming he's ready for the next level, so to speak. Whether it's, I don't know if it's AEW, I don't know if it's WWE/NXT, or WWE itself. I just don't know, but my gut tells me I don't think he goes back to Impact. I don't know that for a fact. That's purely opinion.
I do think that there are, I don't want to say better companies, but there are more relevant companies that fit him and what he has to bring to the table than Impact. But if he decides to stay there and that's where he's happy, he'll still have great matches. It'll still be good stuff. But I wouldn't be shocked to see him somewhere else down the line.
David asks, what does sponsoring a match involve? So basically what happens is here at the show, our podcast gets plugged before the match, and there's just like a quick little 20 or 30 second spiel, I guess, that they say before each match, where they say match is sponsored by so-and-so, and then you get like a 20, 30 second plug. But I also know that those plugs also air on the streaming service that these cards go on. I think they're on High Spots.
Yeah.
And so not only are we plugged here at the venue live, but the plug also is included in the video on High Spots. So it's really cool. So I'm surprised we haven't seen more fans roll in yet. I mean, maybe they opened the doors closer to 2:15 or 2:30.
He had just told me at the very end of our interview with Colt that the doors are getting open. I think they're trying to hold off a little bit to get some of the talent back here,
which they're actually
to the back, which they're headed to. So
yeah, they got to be opening the doors shortly. We're literally watching all the talent walk to the back now. So no, it's gonna be a fun card for sure. And is this a Rev Pro show? No, it is not. So
it's a Glory Pro show.
It's Glory Pro, not Rev Pro. Big difference.
Right.
Big difference. So, man, just the highs and lows of the audio in here is just crazy.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you what. We can be on for like another 20 minutes or so. We can do an impromptu Ask Alex and Cole if you want.
Yeah.
There goes the music.
I knew it was coming.
Is there anything? What happened in wrestling this past week that maybe we could touch on? Because Kylie's going to be on with us this Thursday. Which, by the way, I don't have the graphic handy, but again, Kylie Ray will be joining us again, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central this upcoming Thursday, and she's becoming a fixture on the show. So the Smile Gang returns,
and I'm pumped for it. And we're also going to be finishing up, I believe, our draft boards.
Yeah.
We're just going to go ahead and wrap that completely up, because with all the interviews we've done, it's been hard to try to get those in at the end. And so I think we're going to wrap everything up, and then we'll take a couple weeks to get our cards together, and I'll get some cool graphics together for it all. And we'll let you vote on who had the best brand and who put together the best main event card or pay-per-view card.
Also this Thursday, we're going to have some cool announcements on future guests for mostly for the month of May. I know I told you guys that the entire month of April was just going to be Cole and I. However, there will be the last Thursday in April. We will have a guest on, but we're going to have more info on that this upcoming Thursday, so stick around for that. It's going to be a ton of fun having Kylie back on with us, and one of these days we'll get some Smile Gang shirts.
Oh, it's coming.
We'll get them made.
We're gonna discuss the topic with her, I'm sure, this coming Thursday, so it'll be a good time. But you asked me what has kind of happened in the wrestling world here recently, and I think one of the big rumors is still going on right now is the Cody Rhodes. Did he sign? Did he not sign?
Well, yeah.
Is it a work? Is it not a work? Is he going to be at Mania? Is he not?
Well, I'm pretty sure at this point it's almost a given. But what's not a given is when he'll show up. I mean, do we think it'll be at Mania? Do we think it'll be the night after? To me, I almost think it'd be a waste if they saved him for the night after, especially with all this rumor that he's gonna have a match with Rollins, and I don't know. I feel like if. What are you laughing at?
The Cole runs in and hits people with his finisher, the fruit snack. I don't even know what would be the move.
Yeah. Help us out here. What would that look like? What is the fruit snack?
I like the name. I do. I love the name, but I need to know because it's got to be something I can physically do. I feel like it needs to be like one of those comedic finishes, like Santino with the snake, or the Sacco, Mr. Sacco thing.
The Cobra.
Is it like a Carlito thing where I put fruit snacks in my mouth and I like spit it in their face and then like hit them with like a stunner or a low blow or a poke to the eye? I don't know.
It'd be like a combo. So you could like chew up some fruit snacks, blow like spit them in their face, like step on their toe is kind of a comedic thing, but then like out of nowhere hit them with like
roll up or a...
Well, no, I would. It almost needs to be like a high impact type finish. So. Well, I mean, let's discuss. So, fruit snacks in the face. You got to stomp on their toe, but then out of nowhere hit them with like a huge lariat or something.
Like I said, it's got to be something that I can do.
Well, what's wrong? Why can't you do that?
I'm thinking more of like a backstabber or.
I mean, whatever.
Or
code breaker.
A code breaker. I could do a code. That would actually work better.
Okay.
It's right to the front. And then I think the fruit snack.
Fruit snack, I like it.
Is me spitting fruit snacks in someone's face, and then hitting them with a snack break. Yep, with a snack break, and
snack breaker,
and it'll be a variation of the code breaker. Instead of 2 legs, it'll just be 1 knee.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, we just got my finisher.
The snack breaker. It's got to be the snack breaker.
The snack breaker.
Oh my goodness. Let's see. What do we think of the women's title match on AEW?
Shocking.
Really?
I thought it was shocking.
I kind of had an idea that Thunder was going to win just because this would have been
her third time.
Well, so technically it was their third match, but I mean, you gave Thunder Rosa the victory on the lights out match, if you will, and then Britt retained on the most recent pay-per-view, which kind of felt like it was an underwhelming match, but I mean, that's just me, nonetheless. From Snacks and Black Mist. No, I feel like that at this point you almost had to give the victory to Thunder in this case, because otherwise, like, long-term booking, if you will, it's almost like, what would you do with Thunder after that?
Agreed. I think I was more shocked because I felt like their match that they had was really, really good, and I thought it was more pay-per-view-esque, and I'm kind of shocked that they didn't make the decision just to do it.
Do it at the pay-per-view?
At Revolution.
Yeah, I mean, that would have made more sense in my opinion, especially, I mean, given that the match on Revolution was just a standard match, was it not?
Yeah.
So...
And like I said, that one wouldn't have been a predictable Britt Baker win for me versus Thunder versus her. So, I don't know. It was just a little shocking to me, but I thought the match itself was great.
The match itself was much better than the Revolution match, 100%. He said, Brian says, I think they did too much in the women's match. Sometimes less is best. I don't know. I mean, I was all right with the cage. If you're referring to the cage match, I was all right with it.
They had to do something more because they've already done like the lights out match and something like. I thought that match was the perfect culmination of their series of matches or whatever.
Yeah, but to be fair, I don't think you're going to top the. I don't think you're going to top the lights out match. So.
Yeah.
You just had Mr. Richard say something to you.
Yeah.
What'd he say?
Don't
know? Okay.
That was an A-B conversation.
We had Davey Richard just walk by and say something. I thought Cole understood him. I know I didn't, but he wasn't talking to me. He made eye contact with you.
Yep. Let's just say.
Let's move on.
Let's just say I might be in a match now. I don't know. Things happen pretty quickly.
It might have been appropriate that you now have a named finisher and you know exactly what you're doing.
He overheard that and he was like, you know what? That's a great idea. And I'm so talented, guys. I don't need like in-ring practice. I'm more of a just kind of like do it in the moment kind of thing.
Well, look, in honor of Scott Hall, here's what Davey said. He said, "I heard about your finisher. Can't wait to kick out of it."
Oh man.
So no, I mean, I don't know. I was all right with the AEW Women's Title match. Here's one thing we've not talked about: the new belt design.
Yeah. There's.
I love it.
There is that.
Short answer. I love it.
I'm happy with it. It is a step up from what it was.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand what they're going for with the old design, like the old like Southern 60s, 70s style cut of the belt, however you want to phrase it. But I do like the new version that's kind of a takeaway also from the old school North American Championship, which is kind of what their men's title is taken from as well. So yeah.
Now, speaking of belt designs, have you seen the rumored new belt design for the WWE Unified?
I have.
And your thoughts on that? You're the belt guy.
It's not really any different than what they have now, except it's just it's a black strap with the blue swoosh, isn't it?
I felt like the actual plate was a different design compared to.
Well, let's just take a look.
It wasn't an exact look, but it is very similar. I will say that.
I am pulling it up right now. So basically, the rumor was kind of, I don't want to say spoiled because we don't know if this is even confirmed or not, but I think it was a giant prop that was on like a truck bed or a trailer. Okay, here we go.
There it is.
Oh. We just had someone bump into our camera, making sure that's still looking. So yeah, it looks like it's. I mean, it looks like it's the same.
It's a cleaner look to me, though. Does that make sense? Like it.
Well, we have someone in front of us that has a universal belt, but I don't have a good view of it to compare. I don't know. But I don't know. Do we really think they're going to unify and have one champion across both brands?
See,
Realistically.
The thing I struggle with is I think that they're having a hard time feeling like they have major star power on both shows as a champion. And
I can see that.
And that's the only thing I can think of the benefit of unifying would be that, someone as big of a name as Roman or Brock or whoever you have holding the title, having them on both shows is going to be better for the rating side of things.
Yeah.
And that's the only benefit I could get out of it. Is like, obviously, we could pick 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9 guys that we'd love to see be world champion, and that there's enough of them to put them on 2 different brands and have 2 different belts.
Right.
But we also talk about having prestige to those belts. And I think having one main champion brings more prestige back to the belt, and it also allows them to stretch storylines out a lot further, because now if you got Roman defending on SmackDown, but there's a number 1 contender on Raw, they could be getting involved in matches, and it could create a lot more storylines. So I'm not going to say that I don't believe it could happen, but it is weird that they did this brand split and re-divvied up the rosters and did all the work to then just let them go to the wayside.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. But
unless there's another belt coming. Is there a new main title for Raw or SmackDown to be unveiled?
See, then that's going back to, I mean, when they had the quote-unquote undisputed WWE Championship in like 2002, whenever they had the WCW invasion thing, and then they had the big gold belt re-debut, but they just called it the World Championship. It was just so generic, and I'm like, why? Why? So I don't know. I just don't want them to go back to that.
Right.
But I don't know. We'll see. So, how are we doing on time? We got about a quarter after. I don't know. I mean, you tell me. I'd be okay with wrapping it up, and I know we're doing some live giveaways here, and I'd kind of like to have some time to talk with people here and get people to come to our table and stuff. So maybe we should.
Let's give it about 4 more minutes. We'll wrap it right at 2:20.
Works for me.
And we'll go from there, because who knows?
Who knows
what could happen? So does WWE have a full-time face or who could beat Roman? So let's discuss that for a second. So I read a thing that said Ricochet on SmackDown was their number 2 baby face on the roster.
That escalated quickly if that's the case.
Which is good.
I'm not arguing with it, no.
Correcting something that should have been corrected a long time ago. So you have that, but then I was trying to think, who's their number one then? Because I wouldn't consider Brock a babyface.
I wouldn't consider him full-time.
either.
Is it Drew?
Drew McIntyre would probably be their number one full-time babyface. And then on Raw, you have, Finn Balor? I don't know. Maybe Seth Rollins is starting to kind of transition back to...
I feel like they have a lot of tweeners. I mean, it's like depending on the week, you have Seth and KO kind of on the fence a little bit.
I'm trying to think of Finn Balor's clearly, but I don't know if he could be their number one. I would probably think he's their number two as well.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of who would be kind of, because obviously Bobby Lashley is a heel. I don't have one. That comes to mind.
I mean, you've got, and we're just looking at singles wrestlers. That's why we're not throwing out guys like Orton or Riddle, because I mean, they're
which
tag
they
team
did
champions.
have them in singles competition. So technically, you could say Riddle would be probably one of their number one baby faces.
I mean, yeah, I'm not.
But as far as contending, and then you're saying who could beat Roman? I
don't know about that one.
If Braun Breaker is, in fact, coming up, I think he would be the only person that you could build to be believable outside of having Roman lose it to a Money in the Bank, which is right around the corner. And eventually we'll start to talk about who we think is going to win that and what kind of storylines will come out of that. But outside of someone winning Money in the Bank and kind of doing the ultimate opportunity type thing on Roman or Brock, either or, I don't know if there's Drew McIntyre would obviously be a conversation, but Finn Balor is believable. But outside of that, I don't know if you have anybody that's ready.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Why don't we wrap things up? Cole, any final thoughts?
Guys, as always, thank you for watching the greatest wrestling podcast ever. We sincerely appreciate it. Make sure that if you didn't get a chance to hear all of what Colt had to say, you can come back, check it out, and who knows, maybe we'll try to chop that up and get it on our YouTube for you as well. So thank you for watching that. Don't forget to go get your Going Broadway Podcast merch. It's comfortable, it's stylish, and you want to get that. So other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for joining us, spending a little bit of time with us. And don't forget, this Thursday, Kylie Ray is with us. We're finishing up our draft boards. We're just going to kind of shoot the breeze, have an actual, just regular show with her, I think. So it's going to be a lot of fun. You're not going to want to miss. And until next time, I leave you with your favorite thing in the entire world.
Thanks for joining us today, guys. We'll see you this upcoming Thursday with special guest Kylie Ray.
This podcast